All right, we're back. Kevin Loveland, how are you, man?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You didn't choose your last name, right? That was the name that was given you, right?
You know what's funny is I have people come into the funeral home that don't know me, and they'll say all the time, like, that is such a lovely name for a funeral home. How did you come up with it?
Yeah.
And then I reach out and shake their hand and tell them I'm Kevin Loveland. It's quite fitting. But if you stop to think about it, and no offense to going on last names, but it went from Payne Family Mortuary to Loveland. And I've had a lot of people say that it was a nice, pleasant name change. So,
But growing up, when you were a kid and you figured out your name was Loveland, was that a thing? I mean, did kids ridicule you? Did the girls like you more?
well, I don't know. But when I was when I grew up, my wife runs marathons. And I took her and a group of her friends to the Eugene Marathon. And we were in the Loveland Funeral Chapel Cadillac Escalade. And it was filled with running girls.
Okay.
And it said Loveland on the side. And you should have seen the people's reaction. We would pull up to like a truck stop or a gas station to use the restroom along the way. And the girls would just start pouring out of this rig that said Loveland on it. And everyone just kept looking at the rig, looking at the girls, and looking at me. And they couldn't figure out what I was. And I'm not going to go into detail what I think some of them were thinking. But it was quite interesting. And of course, the girls played into it.
Right.
And as they all would get out, they'd like touch me on the shoulder and
We'll be right back.
Yeah. And it was kind of fun.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So,
Jerry Hopkins says, good morning. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Jerry. I know you're watching.
Yeah, he's watching.
Yeah. No, I can only imagine that. Yeah. When my middle daughter turned 16, she invited me. Turned 21. She invited me to go out with her with some bunch of her girlfriends.
Yes.
And I had a similar experience. All these beautiful girls that were dressed to the nines, and people look at me and they look at them, and finally somebody says, "Oh, you're the designated dad."
Yes, that's correct. Designated dad.
That's right. So, well, cool. Well, hey, glad you're here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you've been doing all right?
Things are good. I was sick last week, but came down with the crud. But I'm feeling a lot better now.
And you're between hunts.
Yes, I am. This time of year I get a little bored. A little bored. I need to get back up on the mountain and start skiing because I had a busy fall of hunting, and then it just comes to a screeching halt until about spring bear season.
Okay.
Which is in April.
Yeah. So do you go outside of the area? I mean, do you go on hunts? I mean, we've talked before. I know that you go to Wyoming sometime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do put in for other states, and this year I had a buddy's dad canceled a hunt in Oklahoma because of heart issues, and so there was an empty spot, and it was no charge, and so I went on that and ended up getting a really big whitetail, which is what I've always wanted to get, a big whitetail.
Now, have you ever been like? We know Steve West and Steve.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been on a big guided hunt for bear? Or I mean, it seems like that would be kind of your thing.
Not a big one like that. I've been out and about a few times, but not like some of the hunts that Steve goes on. Those are amazing, and I would love to do something like that. But the wife is probably next. The wife wants to get she wants a moose and a buffalo.
Oh,
the two biggest animals.
Right.
And so probably our next big guided hunt will, our first big giant guided hunt. And when you say, when I say big, like those hunts, like when you go up into the Northern Territories, they're 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And I would love to do one time.
Yeah. That's funny, totally off topic, but there was a time in my life when I was line editing for Steve and some of his adventures. Yeah, and I was putting together an archery hunt for one of his friends, and it was when I learned that sometimes on those adventures they get the animal the very first day.
Yes.
Okay, but they still need to have enough footage to actually make a show, so they walk around in the mountains.
Oh my. Well,
Continuing to-
that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because if you don't, if on the first day you succeed in the hunt, then what? What are you going to do for the TV show?
I never really thought of that.
Yeah.
That
So
they would,
funny.
yes, if you went out and just found one, because a lot of the times, like you'll get to camp and then you go scout and, you scout for a day or two, you find your animal, you stay with it, you sleep with it, you
Yeah,
sleep
right,
on it,
right.
and you're just right there, so he's there. And so then opening morning, right at daylight, you get him.
Yeah.
right, yeah.
And I guess if you're filming a show, then you got to go backwards and
we
start
need more.
filming
Yeah,
the show.
we need more.
That's funny.
We need more footage. Yeah.
Right.
Well, your Oklahoma deer, was that public or private land?
It was private.
It was
Yeah.
private, so it was like
Yeah.
a ranch.
It was.
Yeah. So
Not a fence,
so
not
you
a
probably
high
got
fence.
that pretty quick. It
It was on. No, it was. In fact, this deer they've never seen during the daylight. They only had pictures of him at night, and no, I was very fortunate to get him.
Yeah.
And
How big was he?
he's the only one that I wanted. He was big in the whitetail world, a complete giant. Like he scored 176 inches, so he was big.
So like Boone and Crockett number, what would that be?
I don't
400?
ever
don't
really
do
look
that.
at those numbers.
How many points?
I think he had 5 on each side.
So
Yeah.
5 by 5.
Yeah.
So locally, when you hunt, do you hunt locally much?
Yes, most of what I do here locally is I help a lot of people hunting.
Yeah. So have you some of those coveted hunts, up on big bulls up on Mount Emily, or a bighorn sheep? Have you got any of those? I mean, those are some of those
Yes,
lifetime hunts.
and I've helped. I've helped a couple of people on. Well, one person from here on a bighorn sheep hunt, and then but up on Mount Emily, I normally help people every year and take a lot of kids hunting. And last year, I had a buddy that he had a really, really bad stroke, and he wanted to get an elk. And so we spent 5 days trying to get him an elk, and he was so dedicated and and it was just making me sick that we couldn't get him one. And he literally got his elk, and we had to like drag him up a little cliff. And he literally got his elk on the very last afternoon, right in the middle of in between snowstorms, and it was pretty amazing, very emotional, and because I mean he gets around in a wheelchair, and he'll be walking soon. He's in physical therapy and just has to have some surgeries, but he'll be up and moving around. But that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. I've taken a lot of kids hunting, a lot of first time hunters I take out, and I just really enjoy it.
Do you think? I mean, I know it has, but you've been hunting since you were a kid.
Yes.
Has it changed? I mean,
Oh yes.
yeah. I mean, the intelligence for me when I was hunting as a kid. I mean, you'd look for tracks or you'd look for activity or whatever. If you had a light snow, but thinking it was pretty haphazard. I mean, there wasn't a lot. It doesn't seem like there was a lot of intelligence.
Right.
It has changed. I mean, do you think that over the years that has changed from a hunting standpoint?
Well, I mean, hunting has definitely gotten a lot harder because of the predators,
Yeah,
and
less animals.
the predators have pounded down the animals so bad.
Especially
and
deer
so,
population.
yes, especially deer. Like from what I hear, I didn't live here. I mean, I grew up hunting in Prineville, but I mean, I guess you used to be able to do a loop around Ladd Canyon and see 200 or 300 deer back in the day, and now you're lucky to drive that entire loop and see one deer.
Right.
And of course, the deer are all down hiding on the private properties because that's where they can kind of keep
safe.
they can keep the predators out. And,
Right.
but it definitely has changed. And back when I grew up, I mean, the furthest shot that we would ever take would be 300 yards.
Right.
And now we're shooting 1,000 yards. And you have way better optics and equipment, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite hunting story, or a favorite, that like, yeah, that was a great moment, and maybe that was with your friend or something.
That was probably the best moment I've ever had. It's and being able to look back on it and just see how rewarding and how emotional it was. It was amazing. I mean, I love taking kids out for their first time, like my kids, and their first deer, their first elk, and it's always very rewarding. When it's a young excuse me, when it's a young person and you're just trying to get them involved.
Yeah. Do you still get buck fever?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and that people who have never shot or never hunt, you just don't know. I mean, because the minute you put your rifle up and you're looking through the optics and
yes,
and it goes through you. Yeah.
And you would think with all the hunting that I do that I would be a better shot, and I'm really not. I get into a situation and I kind of lose it a little bit, which is the buck fever part of it. Buck fever, bull fever, bear fever. I get it all.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, hey, let's switch topics. Let's talk. So, Loveland Safe Ride, you guys just recently got your nonprofit status, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Now, talk to me about that. Has that been something you've been working on for a while?
So what happened was we really started looking at the program and the expenses that go into it, and a few years ago, and it started to become incredibly expensive to run the program when you have several drivers, driving all over the county and trying to pay for them and fuel, and it just gets a little bit challenging. And then we recently bought the funeral home up in Wallowa County, and so then we started driving for events up there. So there was times just this last year that we had drivers driving at 3 or 4 different events in one night, and it finally got to the point where I wanted to get some long-term help, mostly for the future of Loveland Safe Ride. And so Jerry Hopkins and I were talking, and we have a lot of meetings about Safe Ride, probably more meetings about Safe Ride than I have with meetings about the funeral home. But it's because the program means so much to both of us. Mm-hmm. And I mean, without Jerry, and I know he's listening, so thank you, Jerry. But without Jerry, we would not have the program, because there's no way that I could keep up. And his heart and soul is Loveland Safe Ride. And so anyway, we got to talking, and we just thought, how would it look if we were able to achieve nonprofit status? And looking at it from a larger, and I'm going to goof this word up, a larger philanthropical way of looking at it, and trying to see, will Loveland Safe Ride continue one day after Kevin Loveland retires? And that's the direction that I want to go. Is we're going to talk to different organizations and counties and groups, and I would love to actually see Loveland Safe Ride be a regional program that is all throughout Eastern Oregon, and we are at every event that we can possibly be at where alcohol is being served, and we can just get people home safely. I mean, because when we really start doing the math, after sponsoring and paying drivers and everything, it's probably costing us about $100,000 a year. And I can't expect one day Ian, my employee,
right.
that one day will eventually buy the funeral home, I hope, that I can't expect him to just dole out $100,000 a year for a program that I have started. And yes, it's a great program, and it benefits the funeral home just because of marketing and goodwill, but I can't expect anybody to pay for that doesn't have a strong connection to it. So we are, after legislation, that whole session gets out in Salem, we're going to start having talks with some senators and the House reps, which we've already started, and trying to get more of a long-term plan for Loveland Safe Ride. We've already, like Matt Scarfo has already talked to the Union County, and Union County is going to start chipping in and helping us out a little bit financially, and I know, and I'm sure, you know, we'll get some support from Wallowa County, but we want to look at it at a bigger standpoint, because I would love it if there's a rodeo in John Day for us to just roll down there and get everybody home safely.
Yeah.
And I think we can achieve that. You know, there's big programs out there, you know, that have a lot of philanthropical views that want to fund a program like this, like Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and just a lot of the bigger organizations that have the finances. And we're really excited about it. It's I'm not incredibly familiar with the structure of a nonprofit because I've never owned one, and so we're working through it. But Malia, that works for us, her husband is an attorney, and he helped us put everything together, and it's really came together great.
You need to get somebody working on writing grants. There's got to be grants out there for this, and that's just money that you know what I mean. That's just like, here we have this money. It has to go towards this. Somebody write a grant for it. Boom. You know what I mean? That's the.
So while you're bringing that up, if there are any grant writers out there, we would, if you want to write us a grant, we'll give you a free ride home next time you're out drinking. I mean, that's a pretty good trade. No, but literally, if anybody does want to give us some assistance with grant writing, and of course making any kind of contribution to Loveland Safe Ride, it would be greatly appreciated. Yeah. I told Jerry that I was never going to get up and ask anybody for money, that it's just too difficult, but I can see the value of Loveland Safe Ride, and I can see that I want it to go into the future after I retire. And one day when I sell the funeral home to Ian, I'm probably never going to completely retire. It's there's so many people out there that have told me, whether you're retired or not, you're still working at my funeral. And so I'm probably never going to completely step down until I physically can't anymore. But there will be a point where I will start slowing down. And if you ask my employees, it's probably already happened.
During hunting season,
well,
they don't see very much of you. They've kind of got used to that.
That's very true. Yeah. Yes, that's very true.
Yeah. Well, cool. And I guess I got to go back. So it's about $100K a year, and that's with donated vehicles.
Yes, that is. And we have had amazing success because of our local partners, and all of the local dealerships, from Goss Motors to the other guys, to Legacy Ford to Legacy Dodge, and now I believe we're going to start getting some support up in Wallowa County. Like these guys chipping in, because I mean, you can imagine, like, we pick up a vehicle from the dealership, it's perfectly clean and shiny and full of fuel, and then we take it out to the rodeo grounds and completely trash it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully nobody puked in it. Yeah. And of course, if they do, we clean that up. But you know, and then we do our best to try to clean things up a little bit. But then we're just bringing them back a vehicle completely trashed, and we make sure we at least fill it back up with fuel. But but we've really had some great partners along the way, and I just can't thank them enough.
Yeah.
I thought the drivers were volunteers.
They used to be volunteers.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
I just got to the point where I just felt so bad that they were out, because you've been in the vehicle. Yeah. And you've seen what goes on in there, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're driving people home, and you know they're drunk and they're in a fight with their wife, or they want you to turn the music up, and the other person sitting next to you wants you to turn the music down, and you've got drunk people yelling at you. It just finally got to the point, and this started with Jerry, where I just forced him to take something for driving. Like, Jerry donated his time and all of these years to the point where I would just finally just go down and just buy him a gun. and be like, well, a guy's not going to turn down a gun. And then I'd hand him a gun. Actually, it first started with a bow, and then I think it was a rangefinder, and then a gun, and then finally I just told him, I'm like, Jerry, you've been doing this for years and years and years, and it is time for you to start accepting a paycheck when you help us out. And he did it reluctantly because his heart is just into the program. And I'm like, it's okay to still have your heart into the program, but I'm going to pay you.
Right, and it changes the relationship in a positive. I work with a lot of volunteer organizations.
Yes.
And I've been in a position of being a paid staff and had volunteers working for me, but volunteering will only go so far. There are some times where, when you pay someone, it changes the accountability level.
That's
in
true.
a different level.
That's true.
So if you're a volunteer and you're miserable and it's 2 a.m., it's like, I'm not taking this anymore.
Right.
But if it's a paid position along with that, sometimes that's enough to sustain somebody, keep them going.
It's been amazing. Like, we literally have people contact us all the time wanting to drive.
Sure, yeah.
And we tell them, like, like even Senator Todd Nash up in Wallowa County, like, he came to us and just said, I want to drive for you. And we actually needed a driver up there. And so then we went to pay him, and he just laughed at us. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, you are not paying me. He goes, my county has given me a gift to go to Salem and represent our entire region, and I'm going to give back to my county by driving. Same thing with Paul Andrus, a county commissioner here. He just drives, and he's like, no, I don't want anything.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing because Paul has offered to drive for us anytime we need help, and it's really been amazing. And Commissioner Scarfo has offered to put on an event for Loveland Safe Ride that's going to be on May 10th. It's going to be a fundraising event that we're going to do down at Benchwarmers. I think we're going to have the full covered parking lot and even the street blocked off. And Matt's going to donate the food and the facilities, and so we really have a lot of really good support from the community. And you guys are right to talk about grants, because I think once we really start diving into this, that we're going to realize that the program is going to go on. And it's pretty exciting for me to see, because I could not imagine I would just have to keep working to be able to fund the program, because I would, and I don't make $100,000 a year, so maybe I'd have to get 2 jobs.
Yeah.
But the Loveland Safe Ride is going to go on somehow, and I just hope that it can be fully funded and we can actually expand it, and it can just go on for eternity.
Did you imagine that it would be bigger than?
No. The first year in the year 2000, I decided to do it because I just got to thinking my best friend was killed in 1997, and I wanted to do something. And so that New Year's Eve, I just, I put ads on the radio, and I literally haven't owned the funeral home for a year. And I had about $400 in my account at the funeral home, and I called the radio station and asked them if I could do a series of ads and to promote what I was going to do, and they told me it would be about $400. So I literally drained my account when I didn't have any money to do ads for a program where I had to buy the fuel and was giving everybody a ride home for free. And it wasn't as busy as it's been, as it is now, but I quickly found out that I cannot be the one to drive, because unfortunately, I will sit there and talk to somebody as long as they want me to talk to them, right, even though my phone is ringing off the hook, right, and all these other people need rides home. And it's a lot of the reason why the guys don't let me go out in the middle of the night to pick up people when they pass away, because I'll sit down on the couch with the house and make the entire funeral arrangement while my guys are sitting there waiting at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And so they're like, no, we want to get back to bed. The family can call and make an appointment and see you in the morning.
Yeah.
And so getting back to the safe ride, we have a lot of support but it is incredibly expensive, and it's getting a lot more expensive because not only, and when I'm talking about the 100,000, that's also when we promote it.
Yeah.
Like we promote it at the rodeos, and we pay for sponsorships. And
you promote it by sponsoring the Cody Bond Show.
Yes, yes, and a lot of what we do is just promoting the safe ride because I want people to use it. It really bums me out when I look in the newspaper after a rodeo and I see that there's been some DUIs. And but I can tell you, when I first moved here, I mean, there used to be 30 or 40 DUIs given on a weekend. When like at Stock Show, I mean, it looked like Christmas lights going out the Union Highway, and it was all people getting pulled over. And now they don't give any anymore.
Yeah.
And so, to me, I see that we've made a change, and it's a positive change, and it just really makes me feel good, especially knowing what I do for a living. And so it's probably been the most rewarding thing that I could ever do in my life. And people are like, "Oh, you've got a great funeral home, and you should be so proud." Well, I'm more proud of the safe ride.
Yeah.
I'm proud of saving lives.
You should be. I think. I mean, it's fantastic. It's hard to fathom, and I talk about this with Cody all the time, how much of an impact it's made. Like I can't even like monetarily, life, just the impact in one small county too. Like we're not big now, and now too, but most of the time. But just the impact of people not getting DUIs, not getting put into that position where their life is kind of flipped upside down, because monetarily it's a big chunk of money, and then also if you're behind the wheel and you kill somebody, you have to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So just the impact that Loveland, and so does their family, your family. It's crazy to think about how much impact it's made in this community.
Yeah, and it's difficult to keep an accurate number. I wish we would have had little clickers all along, but we kind of keep track, like rough estimates, and probably by the end of next year we'll probably be at 150,000 rides we've given, and it's pretty cool to think that between the two counties we've given everybody rides home equivalent 3 or 4 times at least. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Great impact. So let's talk about business for a little bit, because it's interesting. So, because I've been in that situation where there's only $400 in the account. In fact, it might be that case right now. Yeah. But I mean, talk about business a little bit and how that's been for you over the years, and what have you learned?
Well, I've learned that I can't go running around paying everybody's bills when I owe money myself. And so when I first bought the funeral home, and I, as everyone knows this about me, I kind of work on hunting seasons. And so I bought the funeral home deer season of 1999. That's what I tell people. And so it was October of 1999, and I bought the funeral home, and I literally, after I bought it, it was pretty slow for a while. We only served 70 families a year, and it was tough. Like, I would literally put enough fuel in the vehicle that if somebody passed away, that I could at least go pick them up and bring them back. And it got something buzzing me, and it has just totally evolved into, now our vehicles are always completely full, because you never know what's going to happen. But we slowly watched the growth in the community, and people just started accepting us. Like, I immediately got active And that bug is really bugging me. Sorry, everybody. I know that's really not professional. But I immediately got active in the community and like joined Habitat for Humanity and Rotary and the Chamber of Commerce. And, I even was on the Grand Ronde Symphony board, and I was doing all kinds of things. And I'm not much of a musician, and I've never been able to really be able to establish good music from bad music. So that board, they even asked me to be on the barbershop singers, and I'm not a singer. I think they were really glad when I told them I couldn't do that anymore. But I really got active in the community, and the community totally accepted me. And I could see the writing on the wall with this community. If you give to this community, they're going to give back. Yeah. Whereas some communities, like you go into certain communities, and whether it's just a big rodeo community or something, and if you're not in with a particular group, then it's very difficult to kind of get your foot in the door as far as being an active business participant. And here it was like the more I gave, the more the community gave back. So I continued to give, and the next year we did 99 funerals. The next year we did 123, and now here in Union County we're doing well over 300, and it's really been nice because the more, and I still have that platform, the more funerals that we do, the more that I give. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I pay myself a reasonable salary. I think it's like $60,000 a year, but the rest of the money at the end of the year, it's all gone every year. And my accountant just shakes his head like, I mean, you do what you do, but he goes, you can make a little bit more money, and then we do, but I give it all away. Yeah. And not all of it. I mean, we still pay our bills. I still pay the employees well, but it's been really warming to me to see over the years that with this community, all you have to do is wake up every day and do what's right, and the community will patronize your business. And that is truly my business platform, is give, and you will receive.
Well, and Matt Scarfo was here just last week, and he was talking about him starting in the bar business, and the two of you putting your heads together and saying, we've got to get involved in the community. We've got to give back, and getting involved in different organizations.
And Matt is one, Matt is one that you can go to just about any event and you look down and there's a Benchwarmers gift certificate or a Benchwarmers hat or a Benchwarmers sweatshirt. And and everybody's like, hey, do you want to give? It's a write-off. It's a write-off. It's a write-off. Well, those write-offs still cost us money, This sweatshirt that I could give away that says Loveland on it was, with the embroidery, was probably $75.
Right.
But you always see the same organizations that continue to give over and over and over, and Matt is one of them. And that's why when if you go down on a Friday evening and you go down to Benchwarmers, the place is packed. They've got good food, they've got great service, but that is the community giving back to Matt Scarfo for what he has done, and that is the way that I've seen this entire community work with everyone in business.
How much did he pay you for that free plug right there?
Yeah. So, are more people dying? A good question. That was one thing that kind of struck out to me is so with the baby boomer population, and I'm one of those getting older, mm-hmm. Is there more business? Than what there used to be?
So, and I don't know if I've got into this before, but how I ended up with this funeral home here in LeGrand is because of the baby boomers.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. So years and years ago, a group of investors got together and they said, holy cow, look at all these baby boomers coming of age. And by this year, there's going to be this large group of people that is going to be passing away soon. So this group of investors got together and they said, we're going to start buying funeral homes and cemeteries. So they started buying funeral homes and cemeteries all across the United States, and actually even all across the world, because baby boomers kind of spread out into Europe and some other areas. And it worked very well with them in larger communities. In smaller communities, it didn't work that well. They came into LeGrand, they bought Payne Family Mortuary from Don and Monica Payne, and they raised the prices because they paid a lot for it. They raised the prices and they brought in a management out of the valley, and it just did not gel with our county. Like our county was like a corporate-owned funeral home out of Canada,
right,
owns the funeral home, and then they bring in management out of the valley trying to, smooth talking, oh, it's okay, the prices are high, but we do this, this, and this. And so, and at that time, I was working for the casket company. I was a licensed funeral director and embalmer, but I was working for the casket company, and this was part of my territory. And I saw this funeral home, the one that I own now, losing business. And so I wrote the corporation a letter of intent and to purchase them. And they said, we're not selling funeral homes, we're buying them. And I said, yeah, but you should sell this one. I said, look at the numbers. And the guy's name was Jeff Hamilton, and he writes me back, we're not interested. And so I said, well, okay. And then about a month later, he writes me back and says, I've really looked at the numbers and we are interested. and so I literally sold everything I had. And I had a 2-wheel drive purple Ford Ranger pickup, and with no air conditioning. And I sold everything, and I had my Ford Ranger and my mountain bike, and I moved to LeGrand.
How old were you then?
I think I was 30. It was in 99, and I'm 54 now. Who's good at math?
Yeah.
Now everyone knows I'm not good at math. I just told on myself.
It was in 99?
Yes.
And you're 54 now?
Yes.
That would be like, you would have had to have been born in 54, 99, 30. You would have been like 28, I think.
Right around there.
28?
Sure. I don't know. I'm not. Yeah. I don't get paid to think.
And so here you go. You end up with a funeral home in LeGrand, Oregon.
And then we bought the funeral home up in Wallowa County, and that has been fantastic. My great-grandparents homesteaded up there, and so I've always wanted to own the funeral home up there, but it just was never right. And Lee Bowman up there was trying to maximize his retirement, and so he put a high price on it for a few years, and once it became more reasonable, we said we'd definitely do it. And so now we've bought the funeral home about 1.5 years ago, and we bought the building about maybe 6 months ago. And we have a lot of work to do on the building, but we'll get there. But it's a lot, adding another 100 funerals to what we were already doing, and then branching out and trying to take care of people in downtown Imnaha from LeGrand, Oregon is a little difficult.
Wow.
But we have a great team up there. Cody Tennis kind of runs our nighttime crew up there, and it's him and another guy, and they're on call 24/7 up there, and they just do an amazing job.
Wow. So then there has been a glut of people. Yeah,
okay.
Right.
So, and I don't want to get into any kind of conspiracy, but obviously when COVID happened, a lot of people passed away. Mm-hmm. And then after COVID happened, some people, whether they had reactions to the shot, whether they had side effects from COVID itself, but after COVID, we had a huge number of people still passing away. Tremendous amount.
Yeah.
Unexplainable. And that's where I'm not going to dive into conspiracies.
Right.
I'm not going to say that the shot did it. I'm not going to say that the shot didn't. But a lot of people passed away from underlying complications after COVID for a long extended period. And now it has just started to level out a little bit lower than where it was before COVID. And because what has happened is a lot of those people that had compromised systems, they've already all passed away, whereas they would have just been spaced out over the next, the next several years. But it
COVID just kind of pushed it along.
It really did.
To say it like that, but
it did. But now it's actually, I believe that it's leveled out, and the numbers are a little bit lower than what they were before because those people have already passed away. But it is busy. Yes, we're very busy right now.
Well, and it's funny, people dying. I mean, it's a funny thing because you have people that they'll almost like they'll grit their teeth and they're going to survive.
Yes.
And they do survive.
Yes.
But then at some point they're like, okay, I'm going to relax. And many people, they go. I mean, they just, it's quick.
It is amazing. And you're right, because, and I don't know how doctors feel about this, but you can tell that people will hang on. They will hang on for significant holidays.
You're right.
Or birthdays, or they just want to hang on long enough to meet their great grandbaby, right. and then once they do it, they can just let go, and you hear about it a lot.
Hang on for their spouse, too, because you see a lot of like elderly spouses pass away within like really close windows of each other because one's just hanging on till. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, yeah, that's crazy, man.
And it's funny. In most cases, statistically speaking, the men pass away first. They just we just die sooner, unfortunately.
We have a shorter life expectancy.
And then a lot of the times the lady will recover from that and continue on with her life. But when the woman passes away first, then the man will start to go downhill, and that just goes to show you how much we really rely on our ladies.
Absolutely.
Marilyn McFarland says, "Bless you, Kevin, in the ride program." Heather Winburn says, "We are blessed to have Kevin Loveland to take care of us during the tough times of loss. His business model of give, give, give is awesome."
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome, and I've tried to get you on here, and I will in the future from time to time, just for us to kind of jaw, But you and I see each other quite a bit.
We do, and I want to thank you. And you and I have come a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, those people that don't know about our connection is Brent started live streaming funerals for us years ago, and it has been truly amazing. Like what service we have been able to offer to families. And I mean, we've had soldiers watching funerals in Iraq. We've had people overseas that missed flights that couldn't be there, and it's truly a wonderful gift. And some families think it's wonderful, and some families will be like, well, if they can't make the funeral, then they don't need to watch it. But but it's really nice being able to offer the service, and I really appreciate what you guys do here. You guys saw something in what was needed for media here in Union County, and we're all seeing the vision that you had, because now our newspaper isn't even, now it's the East Oregonian, and we really loved it when the Observer was here and we got a paper every day, and you guys have stepped in and filled that void, and I think everyone appreciates it.
Well, thank you, man.
You bet.
And a lot of people don't know that EOA Live came out of working for you. I mean, streaming was new.
Yes, it was.
I mean, I think you must have gone to a funeral convention or something, and you came back.
I did.
Yeah, and you called me and said, "Hey, can you figure out how to do streaming?" And that was a steep curve early on.
Yes, it was. You spent a lot of money on equipment.
Yeah, and then once we figured out how to do that reliably, then it's like, well, we should do a football game. It's like, well, we should do a season of football games.
Right.
And then it's like, well, we probably should call ourselves something,
right.
And out of that came La Grande Live, and then eventually EO Live. And so, yeah, but us getting into the streaming business came because we were trying to serve you as a client. And so, yeah, you have some ownership in all of this right here too, man.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being a good friend, Kevin.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.